Donald Trump is relying on a doctor who is a member of his Bedminster Golf Club to vouch for his health. A new expose from the Washington Post digs into the identity of Dr. Bruce Arenwald, an osteopath, a DO who has been a member of Bedminster for some time, who is the person back in November of 2023 who wrote a medical note for Donald Trump vouching for his health. I'll share that with you in a moment. And I think it's always worth comparing and contrasting the hyperbolic puffery, the language that comes out of the Trump camp, and you compare it to President Biden, who had a 6-page, very detailed medical report that President Biden released public that has blood tests, conditions and medications, and paint a very clear picture at a very micro level of President Biden's health, and President Biden being in excellent health, healthy, active, robust 81-year-old who's fit to be the president. And then you compare it to kind of the hyperbolic language. This expose is pretty powerful by Washington Post and really just talks about how this Dr. Arenwald is a concierge doctor who hangs out with wealthy people in New Jersey and Bedminster. And it kind of reminds me of Dr. Harold Bornstein. You all remember Dr. Bornstein, the gastroenterologist who penned the doctor's notes for Donald Trump in 2015. I know we have a lot of collective amnesia and we forget a lot of things that went down because during the Trump administration, it was so traumatic, outrageous, and every day there was a new scandal, some new emolument violations, new kind of destructions of traditional norms. But remember Dr. Bornstein, who wrote that note for Donald Trump in 2015 and said he's the healthiest person ever to live. I'll show you that in a moment. And then you remember Dr. Bornstein then gave an interview with the New York Times and some other media outlets where he said that Donald Trump needed medication for hair loss. And remember what happened in 2017? Dr. Bornstein's office was raided and all of the medical files were taken. And then a few years later, Dr. Bornstein died under unusual circumstances. You want to reflect on that for a moment, and then I'll catch you up with Donald Trump's current lawyer, needs lawyers for everything, current doctor, Bruce Arenwald. This is what Donald Trump wrote in December 3rd of 2015. Trump wrote, "As a presidential candidate, I have instructed my longtime doctor to issue within 2 weeks a full medical report. It will show perfection." What we later learned, because his doctor, Dr. Bornstein, admitted this, is that Trump dictated his medical note and Dr. Bornstein wrote whatever Donald Trump wanted to be written. Remember this letter? "To whom it may concern," December 4th, 2015, on Dr. Bornstein letterhead. "I have been the personal physician of Mr. Donald J. Trump since 1980. His previous physician was my father, Dr. Jacob Bornstein. Over the past 39 years, I am pleased to report that Mr. Trump has had no significant medical problems. Mr. Trump has had a recent complete medical examination that showed only positive results. Actually, his blood pressure 110/65 and laboratory tests were astonishingly excellent. Over the past 12 months, he has lost 15 pounds. Mr. Trump takes 81 milligrams of aspirin daily and a low dose of statin. His PSA test score is 0.15, very low. His physical strength and stamina are extraordinary. Mr. Trump has suffered no form of cancer, has never had a hip, knee, or shoulder replacement or any other orthopedic surgery. His only surgery was an appendectomy at age 10. His cardiovascular status is excellent. He has no history of ever using alcohol or tobacco products. If elected, Mr. Trump, I can state unequivocally, will be the healthiest individual ever to be elected president." This is Dr. Bornstein right here. There he is. And this is when CNN broke the story about how Bornstein said that Donald Trump dictated the entire letter to him in 2017, 2018. Play this clip from CNN.
We ran into Dr. Harold Bornstein right here, right outside his office on Park Avenue, and he told us in no uncertain terms, and this is the quote, Aaron, he being Trump, he dictated that whole letter. I didn't write that letter, meaning that Trump dictated what he wanted to go into it, and essentially Bornstein wrote it up. He did say, he compared it to the movie Fargo, and he said it takes the truth and moves it in a different direction. Think about that. Now, Bornstein tells us that he was in a car with his wife when he was on the phone with then candidate Trump in December of 2015. And she was going through with Trump what he could say and what he couldn't say. Trump was dictating what he wanted in that letter, and Bornstein was saying, okay, you can say that, you can't say that. He then came here to the office. He wrote it up. Trump's office later picked it up. He said around 4 p.m. Aaron, we have reached out to the White House, but we have not gotten a response.
All right, so that's pretty incredible in and of itself. You also now, Alex, Bornstein is saying he was, quote unquote, robbed of the president's medical files. He spoke to you particularly about this encounter. What did he tell you?
Right. So he is saying this is a raid. Bornstein is saying that he was robbed. I specifically asked him, was a crime committed? He said they stole them, referring to the president's medical files. The they in that sentence are two men under the president's employ. The first, as you mentioned, is Keith Schiller, who was the president's longtime bodyguard here in New York. He then moved down to Washington with the president, worked in the White House as the head of Oval Office operations. The other person we understand is Alan Garten, who is an attorney for the Trump Organization. Now, Aaron, normally when you have medical records released, you need what's called a HIPAA released. We understand from Bornstein, he told us this afternoon, that was not signed. Instead, he says these two men barged through the back door, terrified the secretary, pushed aside the patient who was in there. Now, the White House is not contesting that they took possession of these medical files, but they are saying that it was not a raid. Instead, Aaron, they're saying that this was just standard operating procedure. Aaron.
I know we forget a lot about that, right? But that's the warning signs, big red flags back then, eh? And this was Dr. Bornstein saying that his medical practice was raided by Donald Trump's team, and they took all of the medical files from the from it. This is how Dr. Bornstein describes it. This was after Bornstein had told the New York Times and others that Donald Trump needed medication for hair loss. Play this clip.
Exactly were they looking for?
All his medical records, his pictures, anything they could find. We must have been here for 25 to 30 minutes. It created a lot of chaos. I couldn't believe anybody was making a big deal about a drug that's to grow his hair, which seemed to be so important. And it certainly is not a breach of medical trust to tell somebody they take Propecia to grow their hair. What's the matter with that?
Ever tried to break a bad habit and felt like you're climbing Everest in flip-flops? Yeah, we've been there too, but here's a breath of fresh air. Fume. It's not about giving up, it's about switching up. Fume takes your habit and simply makes it better, healthier, and a whole lot more enjoyable. Fume is an innovative, award-winning flavored air device that does just that. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses delicious flavors. You get it. Instead of bad, Fume is good. It's a habit you're free to enjoy and makes replacing your bad habit easy. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking your habit. The first time I tried Fume, it was way more flavorful than I thought, and it feels very fresh. The look and feel of Fume is very sleek, it's well weighted, perfectly balanced, and extremely fun to fidget with. Plus, Fume's just released a magnetic stand for your Fume, so there's no more losing it around the house. It's built with fidgeting in mind. You can spin your Fume around and around and around it. Start the year off right with the good habit by going to tryfume.com/Meidas, TRYFUM fume.com/Meidas and getting the Journey Pack today. Fume is giving listeners of the show 10% off when you use our code Meidas to help make starting the good habit that much easier. Go to tryfume.com/Meidas and use our code Meidas. Wild stuff that you may have been like, I totally forgot about that. Well, let's catch you up to the present right here, because this was the letter from Donald Trump's DO, Bruce Aaronwald, who the Washington Post did the expose on, from Morristown Medical Group. Notice when you look at this letter, no details at all. There's no blood tests. There's nothing specific here. It says, I have been President Donald J. Trump's personal physician since 2021. During this time, I have conducted several comprehensive examinations, the most recent being September 13, 2023, and have supervised specialist consultations along with ancillary testing for screening and preventative health maintenance. I am pleased to report that President Trump's overall health is excellent. His physical exams were well within the normal range, and his cognitive exams were exceptional. In addition, his most recent extensive laboratory analysis remains well within normal limits and was even more favorable than prior testing in some of the most significant parameters, most likely secondary to weight reduction. Cardiovascular studies are all normal and cancer screening tests are all negative. Trump has reduced his weight through an improved diet and continued daily physical activity while maintaining a rigorous schedule. It is my opinion that Trump is currently in excellent health, and with his continued interest in preventative health monitoring and maintenance, he will continue to enjoy a healthy, active lifestyle for years to come. Signed, Bruce Aaronwald, DO. But notice, no results of the cognitive exam, no results of the blood test, no results of what the actual weight was, none of that at all. What we do know, though, is that Donald Trump claims that he is and this is how my brother Brett made this post, that Donald Trump claims that he's 6'3", 215, the same weight as Chris Henworth, who's 6'3", basically 6'3", 220. And as Brett wrote, the human body is incredible. That's what Donald Trump claims. But of course, you don't actually get the data from Aaronwald's report. Going through this Washington Post expose right here, what it talks about is that that the new doctor is Bruce Aaronwald, 64-year-old osteopathic physician from New Jersey, a longtime member of the Bedminster Golf Course. Aaronwald declined to meet with the Washington reporters who visited his office about 19 miles from Trump Golf Club, and through Trump's campaign said in a statement that he saw no reason why he would release any further details about Trump's health before the election. Quote, there's no need for Trump to release another medical report in addition to the one he recently made public. The president is strong physically and sharp cognitively, and he's in excellent health overall. Compare that to the 6-page letter, as I said, that President Biden posted that has a ton of details and data. Here, just take a look at President Biden's report right here. It's a comprehensive review, optometry, dentistry, orthopedics, physical therapy, neurology, sleep medicine, cardiology, radiology, dermatology. Each specialist has independently reviewed the chart. So medical doctors in each of these then submitted their results for this comprehensive report. And then they went over everything. If there were skin lesions, anything that they would do, they would note down in the most the possible transparency. Just going through this report, you can see a listing of the medication, social history, physical exams, height 72 inches, weight 178 pounds, body mass index 24.1, blood pressure 132/78, pulse 64, respiratory rate 14, temperature 98.6. Physical exam is essentially unchanged from baseline. I mean, real data right there to kind of assure the American people about his health. Some other data, though, on Dr. Aaronwald. He's a native of Bridgewater, New Jersey. He received his osteopathic degree from an institution that was formerly known as the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey, but that school was later dissolved, and its osteopathic department was taken over by Rowan University, and so that's the history there. So you've got Dr. Arenwald for Trump, then you had Bornstein, and then of course you had Dr. Ronnie Jackson while Trump was in office. And of course we've been reporting here about how the White House, while Trump was in office, became a pill mill. We see the DOD Inspector General's report, evaluation of DOD internal controls related to patient eligibility and pharmaceutical management within the National Capital Region and executive medicine services. And we see here what types of medications were being dispensed, like at the White House, without really any protocols and procedures in place. You had fentanyl, Versed, ketamine, morphine, Ambien, and Provigil, a ton of hard medications as well, being just given out willy-nilly in the White House while Trump was in office. Now, folks, there's a broader point too that I think we should kind of connect this to. I think the first thing is kind of the weirdo Trump propaganda, number one, and how kind of culty and strange it is. So when my brother made that post, which is just quite literally identifying what Trump claims his weight is, and then, does a comparison of Trump to Chris Hemsworth, because Trump says that that's basically his body type, right? But all of these Trumpers make posts like it's a weird cult worship. Like, here's what Tim Pool published. He goes, "This is what Democrats fear." Yeah, really weird stuff. And then, like, when my brother posted that, you had all these Trump trolls go like, "LOL, you're making jokes? LOL, I'm in better shape than my Gramps too. Comparing a 40-year-old to a 77-year-old. You must be fun at parties. Hard to believe that guy at 77 doesn't look good. And your point? Jealous, I see. Is there a point here? I get it, you're gay, but you look like an iguana. It sure is. And you 5'7", 190 pounds? Brett was just pointing out the facts that that's what Donald Trump weighs. That's what Chris Hemsworth weighs. And that's what Donald Trump claims he weighs. So you could evaluate and judge Donald Trump's claims for yourself. So one point is the propaganda. I think the second point to talk about too is, like everything Donald Trump says is a lie. Every aspect of it. When we can talk about fraudulent financial valuations, how he handles his medical, there's nothing that's transparent and above board, right? Just as the way Trump dealt with that fundraiser over the weekend. Oh, President Biden actually raised $26 million? Well, then I'm going to say I raised $52.5 or $50.5 million, double what he raised. And look at all these people who have showed up. And the media goes with it. Donald Trump raised all this money, setting records, with out verifying that this is someone who lies about everything. This is someone quite literally who's been found liable for fraud, for inflating financial valuations. And so you just buy everything that he said? What in the world? In any event, judge for yourself. Another data point that I want to share with you. Dr. Arenwald joining a long line of Bornsteins and Ronnie Jacksons. And then again, and then compare it to President Biden saying, here's the financial, here's the medical stuff, here's what they are. I'm Ben Meiselas. This is the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 3 million subs.
Hey, Midas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.